Okay, let's dive right in. If you want to understand some of the most common problems in medicine, things like low blood pressure or swollen legs, you first need a map. Not a map of the world, but a map of your own body. Specifically, a map of where all your water is. So in this explainer, we're going to build that map together, step by step.
And this is really the core idea, the guiding principle for our whole journey. It's such a powerful statement because it boils down a huge chunk of medicine to its absolute essence. It's not always about some super complex disease. A lot of the time, it's just about the fundamental balance of water and salt.
Because let's be real, patients don't walk into the clinic saying, "Hey doc, my extracellular fluid is depleted." No way. They come in with very real problems, like the ones you see here. Low blood pressure, swelling, confusion. These are all just symptoms, right? They're the clues that tell us the water and salt inside the body are in the wrong place. So, to make sense of all those symptoms, to actually solve these clinical puzzles, we need that internal map. It's our guide. It's how we figure out what's really going on under the hood. So let's begin that journey inward and start drawing the borders. Every map has to start somewhere. And for our blueprint of the body's water, our starting point is one single, absolutely crucial number that represents all the water in an average person. 42 liters. That's it. This is our hero number. For a standard 70-kilogram person, this is the total volume of the entire world we're about to explore. Almost everything we talk about from here on out is just a fraction of this one number. So burn it into your brain, 42 liters. Now, this isn't some magic number we pulled out of a hat. The calculation is actually surprisingly simple. We're about 60% water by weight. So for a 70-kilo or 154-pound person, you just do the math, 70 times 0.60, and you get 42. It is worth noting, though, that females tend to have a slightly lower percentage, and that's just because fat tissue holds less water than muscle. Okay, so we've got our 42-liter world, but it's not just one big swimming pool inside of us. The very first and most important line we draw on our map is a massive one. It's the line separating the water inside our cells from all the water outside our cells. And this slide right here, this is the first big surprise for a lot of people. A full 2/3 of all our body's water, a whopping 28 liters, is actually locked away inside our trillions of cells. We call this the intracellular fluid, or ICF. That leaves only 1/3, just 14 liters on the outside, and that's the extracellular fluid, or ECF. All right, let's zoom in on that smaller 14-liter extracellular space, because this is where the most immediate clinical drama really happens. This outside water isn't all one thing either. It has its own critical divisions that, believe it or not, explain a central medical paradox. So of those 14 liters of outside fluid, most of it, about 10.5 liters, is something we call interstitial fluid. The easiest way to think of this is just the boggy, swampy fluid that bathes all of our tissues. The much smaller chunk, only about 3.5 liters, is plasma. That's the liquid part of our blood, the fluid that's actually inside our blood vessels. And this division right here is the key to a huge clinical puzzle. Seriously, this question trips up medical students and even experienced doctors all the time. How is it possible for someone to have swollen legs, just full of excess fluid, but at the very same time have dangerously low blood pressure, as if they were dehydrated? And here's the answer. The crucial point is that these are two different, though connected, compartments. You can absolutely have way too much fluid in that interstitial tissue space, which causes the visible swelling we call edema, and at the exact same time, you can have way too little fluid in your plasma, causing your blood pressure to tank. They are not the same thing. So that leads us to the next big question. We've mapped out where the water is, but why does it stay in these separate compartments? Why doesn't it all just mix together into one big soup? Well, the answer comes down to the gatekeepers, the electrolytes. Now, just take a look at this table. What you're seeing is a dramatic, almost perfect mirror image separation. Outside the cells, in the ECF, there is a ton of sodium. Inside the cells, in the ICF, there's hardly any. And for potassium, it's the complete opposite. Very little outside, a huge amount inside. This is not an accident. This is a very carefully guarded state of affairs. And the guardian responsible for all this is a tiny microscopic machine embedded in the membrane of every single one of our cells. It's called the sodium-potassium pump. Just think of it as a relentless, energy-burning bouncer at a nightclub, controlling exactly who gets to be inside and who has to stay outside.
And its job is beautifully simple but nonstop. For every single cycle, it actively kicks 3 sodium ions out of the cell, and in exchange, it pulls 2 potassium ions in. And it does this over and over and over using cellular energy, ATP, to maintain that perfect electrolyte divide we just saw. So, we've built our map, we've identified the borders, and we've met the gatekeepers. Now we are finally ready for the single most important high-yield principle in all of clinical fluid management. This is the one rule to rule them all. This is it. Sodium determines the size of the extracellular space. Plain and simple. Where sodium goes, water has no choice but to follow. So if you want to control the volume of fluid outside the cells, that fluid in the tissues and the blood vessels, you have to control the body's total amount of sodium. And this is a fantastic illustration of why that master rule is so powerful. It explains everything. Swelling or edema, at its core, it isn't really a water problem. It's a problem of having too much sodium in the body. And those water pills, diuretics, they don't magically make water disappear. They work by forcing your kidneys to get rid of sodium, and the water just follows it right out. This is the whole reason we care so much about the sodium content of IV fluids. So, in just a few minutes, we've built a pretty powerful map. We know where the 42 liters are, and we know that sodium is the ultimate gatekeeper that keeps it all in place. Understanding this map is the crucial first step. But that leaves us with the next big clinical question. What are the forces that actually push the water to move from one place to another, causing all those problems we saw at the start? Well, that is a story for another time.